Good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to each one of you. First of all, apologies for starting the session a bit late due to some technical glitch. We have to start it a bit late, but thanks for being patient and waiting for us to get it started. Welcome again. And this is Khushi Malhotra, Operations Manager at the Ministry of Security team. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all at today's webinar, SOC and ITGC Simplified. So I'm thrilled to announce our speaker who will be taking this webinar, Amit. So Amit is a cybersecurity leader at RTX, a world largest aerospace and defense organization. So Amit has advised Fortune 500 companies, and he has multiple certifications: CSAM, CIRIS, CISA, CIPM, and he is also a recognized speaker and a mentor. He has delivered sessions across leading corporate and academic platforms, and this highlights his deep knowledge and skills in this field. So we are excited to learn from you, Amit. So I would request the audience to feel free to drop their questions and whatever um, their thoughts in the comment section, and we are here to answer them all. So we hope that this will be an engaging and valuable experience for you all. So let's dive into the today's topic. So the floor is all yours, Amit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kushi. Thanks, everyone. I think really apologize for some kind of IT discrepancy out here. But as Kushi rightly mentioned, there are like a lot of topics that we can kind of from a cybersecurity world we see what is kind of really important. But like as you all know that everything needs to be started from scratch. So I would say SOC and not only perspective on SOC 2, we'll kind of deep dive and kind of expand the horizon and kind of deep dive into various type of SOC 1, 2, 3 reports and kind of ITGC more simplified in terms of covering both ITGC concepts and kind of ITAC concepts, right? So that's really important. So this particular session would kind of provide you the overview on what's how this compliance with SOC report really helps the organization, why IT general controls are like primary kind of very important controls to have in the organization to kind of comply to various kind of regulations, regulators, and kind of help the clients kind of getting the work started, right? So we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, I think Kushi rightly kind of beautifully kind of described about my profile. So my name is Amit Subhanche. I'm currently working with Raytheon. Raytheon is the world's largest aerospace and defense organization. Kind of have experience in various frameworks and kind of having kind of trained in number of corporates in my experience. So yeah, that's a short bio about myself. Next slide, please. Awesome. So before we start, kind of just wanted to kind of start with a heads up on one particular question, right? So please feel free to add your comments, your queries, right? So we'll start with one of the query, right? So what comes to your mind when you hear SOC report or SOC report? So there is a huge difference between SOC and SOC report. So we do have options here, right? So do you think it's a kind of a security check? Do you think it's an auditor nightmare? Do you think it's a client requirement? And do you think it's all of the above? So any kind of any choice that you want to go ahead, feel free to kind of add your comments. What comes to your mind when you hear SOC report? Guys, it's Saturday morning, afternoon, evening for everyone. So I want everyone to be kind of really active and kind of be more interactive. Awesome, Deepak is sharing all of the above. Security check, A, all of the above, all of the above. Awesome. A, security check. Anil says 4. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Great. So yeah, so when we talk about SOC report, right? So basically SOC is service organization controls, right? So I would say like kind of everyone who says all of the above, are like kind of good to go, right? It is a security check for sure. It's also auditor's nightmare because you are kind of complying to service organization, right? So that is really important, I would say. And client requirement, right? Example, let's take an ABC company who wants to kind of outsource their business service to any to an user entity organization, right? So we'll deep dive on what is user entity, what is service organization. So primarily, when you kind of outsource any kind of service to a third party organization, it's also a client requirement because the other party would definitely want to check the organization they are relating to is kind of SOC compliant or not. So there is something called auditors assertion that we kind of formulate a report on. We'll deep dive more into it. So that is also a client requirement. So I would say all of the above is the right answer. So kudos to everyone who have said that. So next slide, please. Awesome. So here we see that primarily why should you care about SOC or ITGC? Like you might have asked, okay, why this report is so much like kind of high importance? Why the importance of the SOC report is kind of increasing because I would say primarily 15 years back, the world of data center has moved now to the cloud environment. In cloud environment, also like kind of lot of clients and a lot of across all the organization would want a SOC report for sure. So this primarily the importance of this SOC and ITGC kind of starts with kind of I would say from four highlighters that we have mentioned here. One, the cyber breaches. I would say more than cyber breaches, I would say data breaches are becoming more frequent and expensive. All right. So as you have seen that we started with in the year 2014 or 2015 from GDPR days to DPDP days, at least at DPDP, I'm talking about India. So GDPR started in UK. Now you see most of the countries across globe they have their own specific data privacy laws or data privacy regulations, and because of which, if there are any vulnerabilities in any kind of cyber controls in the organization, this is causing a major data breach, which is kind of like expanding their horizon in terms of the penalties by the regulators. So that becomes really expensive, right? So now also there are like compliance frameworks are key to protecting systems and building client trust. So basically, whenever we interact with any customer, any client, right? So to gain their confidence, SOC report and ITGC controls are prime important. So please keep that in mind. And companies keep spending millions on audit and compliance effort. This audit and compliance effort, I would say, it's not a 1 year journey or a 2 year journey. When you compare the NIST framework and when you kind of see your maturity level of your organization from initial to kind of repetitive. So you want to be the most mature, cyber mature organization. So obviously, it's not a 1 day journey; it is a multi-year journey. And the audit and the compliance efforts are continuous effort. When we talk about ISO framework, you have one particular important parameter is continuous improvement. So I would say ITGC and SOC is about making sure that the company is on a regular basis auditing their controls, auditing their compliance, and obviously getting better day by day. And the fourth important parameter I would say is the demand for professionals who understand this concept is skyrocketing. So basically, there's a no-brainer. The world of cyber or infosec, and I would say data privacy too. The concepts of SOC ITGC would cut across all the subsets of cyber or all the subsets of risk management from a information perspective or digital trust perspective. That's the right word, digital trust, right? So these are the key parameters that you should like kind of be more worried about why the importance of SOC and ITGC keep increasing. Awesome. Next slide, please. Right. So as we started with like kind of what is SOC? So SOC is system and organization controls. So the word system and organization are two important kind of very important pillars across this SOC framework. It is a suite of reports issued by auditors that examine controls at service organization, right? So primarily there are two important concepts that I want to touch upon before you kind of understand what is SOC. So as you all understood that SOC is system and organization controls, there are three important parameters or pillars in SOC. One is service organization. You need to understand what service organization means. You need to understand what is user entity. Very important concept. And third important concept is all about controls, right? So let me start with a basic definition of service organization. Please do understand the service organization means the organization which is being tested by tested, right? So the organization being tested by the auditors. That's the key information of service organization. When you start on the second parameter, that is called user entity. The user entity is the organization or the service organization which is looking to outsource a business function to a service organization is called user entity. So primarily there are two companies. The one company is kind of outsourcing to another company, right? So the that is service organization, and the user entity is the company which is kind of accountable for their own data. They are sharing their confidential data to the service organization. So that's very important parameters. Please keep in mind service organization and user entity. And third important concept, as you all know here, system and organization controls. Controls is called an auditable process, or I would say mechanism, which is designed to prevent or detect unintended consequences. The unintended consequences or event are risk. Primarily, it might be financial misreporting, it might be unauthorized access to confidential data, kind of helping the organization to lose its confidential data or critical data. So these are all risks. So to kind of have the check and balances, that is where we want to add the controls. So I would repeat before, three important parameters for SOC is service organization, user entity, and control. Right. So these primarily focus on how organization manage privacy, security, financial reporting systems. I would break down this concept into four important points. Everyone talks about CIA, right? But when we talk about SOC, it is CI. It is not a CIA triad. I would say it is confidentiality, integrity, availability, and fiduciary. Fiduciary is also the privacy concept of it. So please keep in mind, don't go with the mindset, okay, SOC is something, okay, again, let me relate to the CIA triad. No, it doesn't work. The another important concept of security you need to bring in picture is privacy. And third important parameter is SOC helps build trust between service providers and customers. Service providers are also called service organization, and user entity is the customer. All right. So customer is the one who is sharing its confidential information to the service provider, right? So the customer would want certain confidence that I'm sharing my like confidential data to the service provider. I need to have confidence how they are managing my confidential data in perspective of confidentiality, integrity, availability, and privacy, right? Basically, that's the overall how it looks, and that the approach looks solid. So it's a very clean example. You can just see simplified example. Imagine you're hiring a cook for your home, right? You want to make sure that they are clean before you kind of hire the cook. You want to obviously understand they are clean, safe, follow hygienic rules or not. So when you kind of parallelly see, SOC is a kind of a literally an health and safety certificate. It tells you that they follow the organization follow the right practices even when they are not watching. The concept of when you are not watching is very important. So primarily service organization basically think, okay, someone is kind of auditing me, so before the audit everyone gets ready, right? Okay, I do have all these controls, I do have all this process in place, I'm good to go. It doesn't work. So SOC is a whole, is a mindset. I would say it's not a concept, it's a mindset that you're doing the right thing from confidentiality, integrity, availability, and fiduciary, even when there is no requirement or when no one is watching. So yeah, that's about it. So can we go to the next slide, please? So when we talk about SOC, all right, so you have three types of report, all right? So one is kind of SOC 1, one is SOC 2, and one is SOC 3, right? So I would like kind of bifurcate into three simple forms. When you see the focus for SOC 1, it is ICFR, or basically on financial controls. It is SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. That's where it kind of generates its concept. So SOC 1 is kind of, please focus, or please kind of keep in mind, SOC 1 report comes whenever you see that, it will have majorly all the internal control over financial reporting. That means that whatever applications the organization has, whatever controls they have, whichever controls which are directly proportional to financial reporting, that's where SOC report type 1 comes in picture. Very, very important. So primarily someone who doesn't have kind of more of finance knowledge. So primarily every organization has to kind of, all the listed entities or listed organization across globe, every quarter they need to release a quarterly result, and there will be an annual report that comes into picture. Whenever there is an annual report comes into picture, all the financial control, all the application that converts the data into kind of impact the financial reporting of the organization, SOC report type 1 comes into picture. SOC 2 report is primarily focused on security principles. So as I said, it is confidentiality or security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. It's not the CIA triad, it is CIA plus privacy. Please keep that in mind. Another focus for SOC 3 report, SOC report type 3 is basically on, focuses on, it's a kind of an publicly available information of SOC 2. That's it. So example, let's take any company across the globe, listed company, and you want to kind of get to know how their controls kind of works, how is the auditor's assertion. So you can find that in SOC report of type 3, which is a publicly available report which showcases how these controls, how the organization controls are performing. It doesn't report, or it doesn't showcase any confidential information. That's it. Excluding the confidentiality of the information in the report, everything you can, that is publicly available material that you can go and see, right? So that's the focus area. So ICFR, please type 1. When we talk about security principles, it is type 2. When you type 3 is a kind of an extension of type 2, wherever we have the publicly kind of public information that comes, or public report that comes from the SOC 2, excluding the confidentiality of the information, right? So that's the best case scenario. So in terms of what are the kind of primarily use cases from a SOC type 1, it, as I told, it is kind of focused on ICFR, internal control of financial reporting. So primarily for all organization impacting client financials. So let's consider service. So your service, you are providing a service to your customer. So the customer would be worried, okay, I'm sharing some confidential information to the service organization, and also they have certain applications which directly impacts the customer's financial reporting. That's where the use cases would be like payroll processing. Most of the organization across globe, all the salary or all the payroll information or payment kind of process, I would say HR payroll process from business perspective is kind of outsourced to a customer or a service organization. So these information kind of trigger a kind of an like instant trigger to financial reporting, ICFR. So hence that's one of the primary use case, or a very important and very focused use case. And also accounting platforms, like all the accounting that goes into picture, like from a P2P process, O2C process. When I say P2P, it is procurement to pay, order to cash, record to revenue. All these business processes, if they are outsourced to the service organization, it will have a major impact on ICFR, that is internal control over financial reporting, and hence that becomes a very, very important use case to it. Okay, so sorry guys, I think there is some discrepancy. I think we lost the deck. But yeah, but just continuing on the same thing. So please keep in mind, when we talk about SOC 1, it is focused on majorly on user entity financial statement. SOC 2 is primarily focused on the security principles, and SOC 3 is kind of focused on, is a public facing version of SOC 2. That's it. And SOC 2 report. And as I told, it doesn't include confidential information. So before we kind of, so I think, thanks for that. So, and when we talk about use case for SOC type 2 reports, it is for primarily for tech, SaaS solutions, cloud providers managing sensitive customer data. So let's take consider example, any organization would want to outsource their, I would say, vendor information or critical vendor management system to a service provider. So these informations are really sensitive because it would have the vendor information, vendor details, your financial details, your financial control, like financial contract with the vendors are really sensitive. So that's where SOC type 2 comes into picture, that focuses on security principles. Just that the output or the intent is primarily providing all the controls, making sure that this sensitive customer information is not getting leaked, right? So I would say from a confidentiality perspective, integrity perspective, availability perspective, and fiduciary perspective or data privacy perspective. That's one of the use case to it. When we talk about SOC type 3 report, it kind of to build trust via website, badges, and public marketing. So basically, as I told, SOC 3 is basically a public facing version of SOC 2 report, which doesn't have confidential information. It provides a high level summary for all general customers without compromising or revealing details on the internal controls. So example, if someone wants to work with the service organization, so there would be multiple customers, right? So one customer wants to kind of initiate a kind of an requirement with one of the service provider. The first thing they will do before kind of having an engagement is that they would first understand how is their SOC 2 report functioning before they even share any confidential information to them. So it's kind of building a trust in the market, right? So that's the kind of high level use case to it. So when we talk about audience, who are your stakeholders or who is the one that report would be intending to? So SOC type 1 are primarily for auditors, the CFOs, very, very important. CFOs plays a very important role, the chief financial officers, and whole financial or finance and accounting team of the organization. That's where they come into picture for SOC type 1 report, which is directly proportional to internal control over financial reporting. SOC 2 type 2 basically deep dives on audience, on clients, that is your customers, your security team, risk management team, and compliance team or risk and compliance team. So those are the one who would kind of come in picture. Security, risk and compliance, no brainer. You would understand security principles are being tested. So they are the one who are kind of, I would say from a RACI perspective, responsible and accountable for all the controls being kind of placed in the organization. Clients, basically, they would gain trust from the service organization report, from the SOC 2 report. Yes, when I'm sharing my report, I can share my confidential information to the service organization confidently without even thinking how my data is secure, because you have your SOC type 2 type report in place. SOC type 3 basically is a general public. As I told, it's a publicly available information. So prospective clients, as I told, it's kind of build a kind of client, I would say client trust or digital trust to the clients. Very important. And obviously for marketing, yes, we do have all these controls. I can serve many other customers. So that's the high level intent, I would say, across. So before we deep dive, right? So just a bifurcation, more one level deep dive on these reports. So when we have SOC type 1, in SOC type 1 we have two types. So one is type 1 under SOC type 1 SOC type 1 report. You do have two bifurcation. One is type 1, one is type 2. So primarily type 1 focuses on test of design. And type 2 is focused on operating effectiveness. So as as a risk management professional or a cybersecurity professional or risk professional, you need to understand what is test of design and test of operating effectiveness. So test of design is basically before you kind of test your controls. That's the phase where you design, where you test the design of the controls, how they are designed, what are the SOPs, what are the policies, standards. All these things needs to comes under the TOD perspective, test of design. Type 2 talks about, it focuses on test of effectiveness or operating effectiveness. Yes, I have implemented various controls and these controls are working effectively across multiple sample size. Please keep that in mind. So that's the high level summary to it. Next slide, please. Awesome. So here you see that SOC 1 kind of focus on financial controls, SOC 2 focus on security and privacy controls, SOC 3 is a public summary of SOC 2, right? So type 1 versus type 2 report. So example, as I deep dive into, okay, type 1 is basically on test of design, type 2 is focused on test of operating effectiveness. There is another timing to it, scheduling to it. Whenever we have type 1 report, right, it focuses on point in time report. It is a just in time. And type 2 is over the period of time. So example, if you want the test of effectiveness or the test of design as of now, so you need to refer to type 1. And type 2 is basically is over a period of time. Okay, you have some certain things scheduled over a period of months. Please go ahead and kind of look into type 2. So here it's a basic meaning to it. So when you say type 1, the meaning it talks about is a one-time snapshot, right? And design of controls. It covers design of controls and control, and example is control designed well, like kind of designed well of March 1st. So basically March 1st is a kind of initial like start of the year, right? So that's where it's a point in time. As I told, it covers the test of design or design of controls to it. And meaning is obviously it's a one-time snapshot. It's a just in time to it. When we talk about type 2, it's an over time review, and it kind of focuses on effectiveness of controls. And these are kind of tested over a period of time from Jan to December. So that's the scope of it. So that's the high level summary to it. So please start typing all your questions. If you have any kind of specific queries, happy to answer those. Awesome. Yeah, next slide, please. All right. So awesome. So here it's a very important concept. I think majority of the kind of stakeholder kind of gets, I would say, like kind of a different ideology to it. So they do have example. I do have kind of worked in multiple organization. Kind of they think that okay, SOC report and ISO 27001 both are same. Example, someone says I am certified to ISO 2701, hence why SOC is required. Point number one. Someone would say, okay, I am like kind of SOC type 1, type 2, type 3, everything is done. Why is the use of ISO 27001? So the question is that are they same? Are they different? The answer is they are different. So basically, SOC is kind of built for US service providers. Very important concept. So it's a kind of an US based compliance. SOX SOX is a primarily an US based compliance. Hence, it's built for US service provider. So any customer who wants to kind of get service from any US service provider, they need to be compliant or they need to have the SOC reports with them. Focuses on trust services or digital trust, primarily security, availability, integrity, confidentiality, and privacy to it. Right? It reports report issued by a CPA firm. Very important concept. These reports needs to be issued by CPA firm only, and obviously they evaluate how the controls are working, both from type 1 and type 2. So when I say type 1, both from a test of design, and type 2, test of operating effectiveness, right? So from a both the type perspective, it evaluates. Ideal for SaaS and cloud-based companies. I would say, yeah. So the time has kind of moved really fast, I would say, and the kind of the dynamic nature we are, technology is being changing from a hardcore I would say, from a hardcore data center days to an hardcore cloud based storage, the things have changed drastically. So I would say these in this current scenario, it's kind of ideal for SaaS and cloud based companies, but primarily any company who wants to build trust to their customer, they can go ahead with that. It delivers a detailed audit report, not a formal certificate. So primarily, that's a very basic and very important concept that everyone needs to understand, is that, okay, whenever you have a SOC report, you don't have a kind of, okay, you're certified to SOC 1, SOC 2, or SOC 3, right? There is no formal certificate to it, but it's a detailed audit summary to it. Like it says that if you like kind of, I won't take much time here, but there is a audit assertion that comes into place. So any SOC report you see, there is an auditor assertion page you have. Please go through it. Very, very important, because it primarily says that, okay, is my test of design, test of operating effectiveness are working properly or not. That's the auditor assertion report. So you can have multiple companies report available on Google. Please, you can go ahead with that. When we talk about ISO 27001, no brainer, it's a global information security standard, right? So it's a framework of ISO which focuses on information security, kind of securing the data of the organization, right? From CIA triad perspective, like confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It covers a full information security management system. ISO is a framework. Obviously, it covers the whole management system altogether from a PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act cycle, right? Also, it kind of a certifying body issues a formal certificate. Any company which goes for an ISO 27001 certificate, considering the scope, they get a formal certificate stating that, okay, this company so and so for this number of location, this number of services at this date has been certified to ISO 27001, right? So that's the summary about it. It emphasizes process, risk management, and continuous improvement. As I told, PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. It is a whole framework of ISO focused on assessing the process, assessing the risk, and how you manage the risk, and obviously doing a regular surveillance audit for a continuous improvement perspective. Awesome. So applicable across all industries. So there is no kind of restriction. Okay, US based service provider are kind of only in scope. So ISO 27001 is open to all industries, and very important certificate to have in, like, to be very honest. It follows a 3-year certification cycle with annual surveillance audit. So whenever any organization kind of gets certified to ISO 27001, the scope for the certificate is for 3 years only, right? There is no extension to it. So every third year you need to get recertified. So there might be a question, okay, the certificate is for 3 years and I don't have any kind of work to do for 3 years, I'm good to go. You're wrong. Every year until the third year, every year you would have a surveillance audit. So primarily there would be an external auditor coming to the organization and kind of checking the whole, kind of assessing and testing the whole ISMS cycle. Are your controls working? Are things working? Which is working, which is not, right? And providing NCs, a non-compliance, compliance report to it, making sure that the organization is kind of working continuously on improving their compliance on a regular level, rather than, okay, I get certified today and 3 years I would not even care what is going on in my organization. It doesn't work. That's where you have surveillance audit coming into picture. So that's the high level summary. So I do appreciate now I think the stakeholders do understand how these are different. Let's go to the next slide, please. Awesome. So when we talk about trust service criteria, as I told, from a SOC 2 report perspective, it focuses on service principles. At a high level, I'll just provide you from a security perspective, it focuses on protecting system from unauthorized access to it. Availability, ensure systems are available for operations. Example, you are going for, like, example, you are going for a, like at the end of the month, you need to pay your salaries. All the companies need to pay the salaries to the employees. But if they don't have the available data to it, obviously there is an operation discrepancy, because of which there might be some delay. So all the right information needs to be in place for the continuous operating effectiveness of that particular control or process. Processing integrity basically focuses on accuracy and timely information, right? So that's the focus. The data accuracy and timeliness of the data is the process. Integrity to it. Confidentiality, it is an information is protected as committed, right? So this information is confidential or is kind of accessible to only this set of users. That's confidential, because as per the rule of RBAC, rule based access control, right? So that's where the confidential comes into picture. Privacy is about, obviously everyone knows, the PII data or sensitive PII data. So PII is personal identifiable information. Sensitive PII is more focused on much specific to the person, like kind of much one more deep dive than the PII. So it's kind of personal data is collected, used, retained appropriately. So basically, when you collect the data, you can't retain that confidential data or PI data for like, you can't tell your customer, okay, I am just collecting your payroll data of all the customers, I will retain this data in my storage for next 5 years. Obviously you can't. It has your archiving principle to it, archiving rules to it. So what are the laws? DPDP comes into picture, GDPR comes into picture, Saudi Arabia law comes into picture. Depending on these laws, there are some archiving rules set, and according to which you should retain your data accordingly. So that's where the privacy concepts comes into picture. Next slide, please. Awesome. Yeah, next slide. So let's deep dive at a very high level on ITGC. All right. So when we talk about ITGC, very important concept, IT general controls. ITGCs are the foundational controls that support the integrity. When we talk about integrity, it's about accuracy and timeliness of the data, right? So integrity of information systems and related process, very important foundation controls. These are basic security, availability, and operational controls in IT environment. So these controls comes into picture only in IT environments. Example, basic password management, right? Or password policies, logical and physical access restrictions. You can't directly enter any organization, right? You can't enter into any vicinity of any organization. You should have physical access to it. You should have logical access to it, and basis on your authorization and authentication, it kind of you can go ahead, right? Password policy from a password management perspective. So it's a basic controls, foundation controls as we meant. Think of ITGC like the rules in a good community or gated community. Who can enter? Are cameras working? Are gates are locked? Who has the keys? These basic rules ensure everyone inside is safe and actions are traceable. The word traceable is very, very important. And the audit, as an auditor perspective, I would tell this very important concept, that is audit trails. You should have those. So next slide, please. So when we talk about foundational controls of ITGC, it kind of cuts across a 5 important, I would say, domains to it: access control, change management, backup and recovery, very important, incident management, and logical security. So when we talk about access control, it's very simple, right? So it says who can access what and why. Something on confidentiality principle perspective. Change management, you can't directly change anything in the application or IT environment instantly. It needs to have a proper checker and maker concept, very important. So that's the change management concepts comes into picture. Backup and recovery, it kind of ensures data is regularly backed up. It talks about majorly, I would say, BCP perspective. right? Having the continuity, business continuity management or a plan in place for the recovery of all the data. So primarily, this control is primarily very, very important for all the risk professionals out here across the globe, because these days ransomware is a cakewalk for most of the hackers in the globe. Whenever there's a ransomware attack, your primarily control is backup and recovery. So really focus on these things. Incident management, obviously, you should have a proper incident management. Whenever you need to define what an event and incident means, how the incident management works for in an event of I would say casualty, in an event of any incident, how your approach or how the organization approach would be. Documenting and how do you document and resolve these incident issues, very important. Logical security, basically no-brainer passwords, firewalls, secure configurations, and many more. Right? So these are the high-level, I would say, foundational ITGC controls that we talk about. Next slide, please. Uh, yeah, 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 sure. Uh, yeah, as we discussed these 5 domains, right? Let's take considering the time that we have. Let's deep dive on sample controls to it. So, as I told, access control proportional to kind of directly proportional to confidentiality principle. Kind of you can have controls that you need to review access reviews every quarter, every month, every year, at least once in a year, whatever the rule set you have in the organization. As per the industry, I think quarterly is the right approach. So that's one of the sample control to it. Change management, what you will test here is all changes are logged in Jira and approved. So it might be a Jira or like it can be multiple applications. Don't stick specific to like Jira. So all the changes, as I told, audit trails needs to be there. So all changes should be logged in and kind of approved to it. When we talk about data recovery and backup, daily backup to secure cloud storage, right? So these days it's more on cloud, but anyone who has data center to it, you can deep dive on hot side, cold side, what's the kind of frequency of backup. You can definitely periodic, what is the period, what is the frequency or periodicity of this backup can be estimated depending on the IT infra the organization has. So incident management, it's kind of more of security incidents reporting via tool, right? So very important this, because if these incidents are not getting reported, then organization is going in a mess, because every organization employees need to understand if there is any security incident that they see or that they encounter, they need to report it. So according to that tool, the right stakeholders can take an action. So that's how incident management comes into picture. Logical security, multi-factor authentication, MFA is a best case scenario, like kind of a best sample control you can understand. Next slide, please. Awesome. So there is one particular guideline. Anyone who is from India, I think here we do have something called RBI guideline. All right. So RBI guideline says, as per Gopal Krishna committee, it says IS controls. Now the word IS control, information system controls, it's very, very important. People think information security controls are primarily ITGC. No, wrong answer. So information security controls are the kind of collaboration or integration of ITGC and ITAC, that is IT application controls. So it's a combination of both IT general controls plus IT application controls, gives you the whole information system control. That's how you kind of relate and proceed further depending on what's the audit criteria. So basically, please do understand, understanding both of these concepts is very, very important to build a very stable, secure, auditable IT environment. Please do please, it's very important concept. IT application controls are automated controls embedded within software applications that ensure integrity, accuracy, and completeness of data processing. So basically, software applications are very key. That's where ITAC comes into picture. IT application controls, all the application controls which kind of are very critical to the organization, kind they need to have the right controls in place to have the right integrity, accuracy, and completeness of this data which is getting processed in the application. That's where ITAC comes into picture. These controls operate at business process level and are specific to individual application. Like as I told, when we talk about business process, it might be procurement to pay, order to cash, record to report, HR payroll. Like these are like key and kind of very common business process. So these ITAC would be kind of very specific to individual application in these business processes, right? So that's how you need to understand. Next slide, please. So basic examples of ITAC, IT application controls. So you have input controls. Input controls are mandatory fields, drop-down validation, format checks. So what format this data is getting into process? So it is the input data that goes into the application is called input controls. The input data is controlled by input controls. Processing controls are basically system automatically calculate taxes, applies discounts. Example, you might kind of use various Uber, various kind of applications across the globe, right? So these applications have their own processing controls in place, because when you apply for a discount, when you apply for a coupon, the system needs to process the process in a right way. Else, there is a financial impact to the organization. Very important. Output controls, what is coming out, right? So system generated invoice, summaries, payment reports, your salary slips. Very, I would say, very important and very simple examples you can understand through it. Integrity controls, as I repeated, integrity focus on majorly on integrity and timeliness of this data. Example of integrity controls would be reconciliation between subledger and general ledger. So I would not get into more on financial details. You can kind of have that in more sessions. We can deep dive into it, how this reconciliation process comes into picture. But as a risk professional, please do understand there is an integrity control also as part of ITAC. Authorization controls, obviously you are one level up, right? As I told, checker and maker concept, only managers can approve leave over 5 days. Example, just an example, right? You are going for, you're applying for some certificate, or you're applying for some I would say like kind of bills you want to kind of reimburse. Your managers or your kind of a designated stakeholder can only approve those payments more than 5K or 10K or whatever USD it is, right? So that's how these controls are lined up. Next slide, please. So primarily, what is this risk, or what are ITGC risk? So risk of unauthorized access into system and network, right? This word of risk of unauthorized access, you can relate to ITGC, very important. Risk of data loss or data theft. So your integrity is getting impacted, your privacy is getting impacted here. So that's one of the risks. Risk of unauthorized access of server room, all right? So any stranger entering your server room where your confidential information is kind of being stored, it's a risk. Risk pertaining to application interface, right? So what are customer applications, very important. Risk of unauthorized changes made to the application. So obviously this application, as I told, needs to have integrity check to it, processing check to it, but if they are not, the application can hit you back and kind of impact the organization. So primarily these are the high level risk to it. Next slide, please. Awesome. So when we talk about ITGC risk, now let's talk about ITAC risk. So ITAC risk, obviously, from an input perspective, you have incorrect data entry to missing input validations. Your date and date, month, year summary format is wrong. The whole output is wrong, because your salary might be impacted, your salary slip might be impacted, your invoice may be impacted, your vendor contract might be impacted. A lot of things can be impacted. Unauthorized access to critical transactions. So example, if you are you're doing a payment to your invoice, you're doing a payment to your vendor, and if the discounts coupons are not applied in a right way, then it can impact financially to the organization. That's how it, please read in that way. Errors in automated calculations or logical flaws. As I told, the discount coupons example, you can take a note of it. No audit trail to track user activities. So example, there is a user who has entered the application, and the application can't retain any audit trails to it, or a change management audit trails to it. So that means that anyone who is entering the application can do any change without any kind of evidence being tracked, or like kind of traces being tracked. So it might impact the organization. It will definitely impact the organization. And also the last example would be kind of data mismatches during system integration. When you do, this is a very important concept in the world of reconciliation. Every month there is a reconciliation from the finance team, and if the reconciliation doesn't match, then obviously there is some kind of vulnerability into the system or the data that you have in the system. Next slide, please. So primary examples between application controls versus IT general controls. Application controls are primarily residing in application and apply to individual transactions only. IT general controls is overall the environment, right? The IT environment which supports the application. So when we talk about application, it is more specific to the application who enters into the application, but ITGC is kind of an high level, right, which talks about the whole environment or where these applications are being kind of maintained. Application controls are also test of one strategy. That means bit design to access design. That means test of design. So that's very important, very important. As we kind of rightly went through those slides in ITAC, which talked about input, output, processing. So these are all tests to it, right? So output controls, what is the authorization control? That's the design. That's the level where we get into and kind of check what's the risk. IT general controls basically more on sample of test across ITGC processes to ensure application to function properly. That's the high level intent to it. Examples, application controls. In the application, we do check format check, date format check, edit checks, calculation, validation, discounts, processing. IT general controls examples, manage change or change management or IT operations, or your, I would say, incident management. Very important thing, right? So these are the things or examples you can definitely look at. Next slide, please. Awesome. So when we talk about SOC report life cycle, right? So we start from readiness to annual monitoring. So basically, I won't deep dive much. So first thing is that how ready the organization is. Readiness assessment. Is this organization ready to get the SOC report? Point number one. Point number two, doing a gap fixing. Very important. First, you should do a gap assessment, do an implementation to it. So wherever those gaps are, obviously you need to do a kind of a gap assessment and do a kind of an I would say gap report, and accordingly act depending on the gap you have or the kind of discrepancy you have. So that's the first approach. The second approach, when you are going for a new report certification to it, you need to start with audit fieldwork, where the auditors go, they audit each control, and these controls are being tested in a very deep high level deep dive level. So that means it shows the whole summary how they tested the report. Example, let's take a change management. So they would go to a change management application, they would see, okay, this change management process, I did check, okay, there was a maker to it, there was a checker to it, there were audit trails to it, we did check, everything is been documented in the audit report. So that's the audit field work that we go through. The fourth step is the final report delivery. So obviously, so after all testing of all the controls, you do have the audit assertion to it, and the final report delivery is being done. And fifth important step is annual monitoring. So there was one important concept we touched upon, is that security is not, or SOC report is not someone who is kind of coming for an audit and you are getting ready. No, after the audit is being conducted, or also the final report delivery is being done, how the organization behaves and takes security as a prime priority or not. That's a very important point. That's where the annual monitoring and re-audit comes into picture. That's the whole life cycle to it. Next slide, please. ITGC assessment process. Basically, you need to identify controls. Is it the password control, chain management control, test the control? You need to go and test, gather the evidence, and these evidences needs to be kind of tested based on the baseline controls they have, and document those gaps, and these gaps needs to be remediated. That's the high level summary of this ITGC assessment process. Example, what are the tools used? As I told, Jira is not the one only that you can focus on. You have ServiceNow, you have various other applications for change logs. For tracking, you can obviously use Excel sheet, SharePoint, whatever application you have. JRC tools for mapping and testing the controls, right? So that's the high level summary of the ITGC assessment process. Next slide, please. Common tools you will see, right? So basically, from an access management, this is from ITGC perspective. Access management, you can have SailPoint, Azure. This is not that we are recommending. This is kind of an high level summary of most of the organization are using. Change management, you can have Jira, ServiceNow, and many more. Backup and recovery, VM, AWS backup, Azure, anything it can be. Ticketing and support, you can kind of deep dive into Freshdesk or Zendesk, sorry. Audit and compliance, audit board, logic gate, RSA, like there are multiple, right? So you can, this is a high level kind of tools that you can kind of get into the market. Yeah, next step, please. Awesome. So I think we went through a very important high level summary of ITGC and SOC. And I'm sure, I think you guys must have kind of being expertise in the overview, at least understanding those concepts. So let's have like kind of a quick summary of all the principles that we read, right? So testing and understanding, let's kind of be active in a comment section. What is the primary focus of SOC 2 report? Is it financial reporting accuracy, IT infra cost, trust service criteria, or employee satisfaction levels? Please start typing in your comment section. What is the primary focus of SOC 2 report? Balchandra, C, awesome. Poonam, Sajri, Deepak, C, awesome. Cool guys. No one is going with A. Awesome. Thank you. Sushi, Prachi, awesome. I think, I think awesome. That means really solid. I think solid understanding. Yes, it is. C, it is trust service criteria. Next slide, please. So SOC 2 reports are based on TSCs, trust security controls like security, availability, confidentiality, process integrity, and privacy to it. Not financials, right? Which are covered under SOC Type 1 or SOC 1 report. Next question, please. So yeah, so guys, next question. We have, which of the following is considered an IT general control, right? We did touch upon 5 domains. Let's check the knowledge. One is saying conducting a marketing campaign. Second is saying reviewing user access rights regularly. C, measuring sales KPI. And D, hiring new developers. So which of the option do you think is a kind of most preferred IT general controls? Mithali, Archana, CC, okay. Amartya, B, okay. Raj, okay. Awesome. Ritu, Raj, Syed. Awesome. Loved it, guys. Yes, it is reviewing user access rights regularly. It's one of the most important and most common IT general controls. Bang on. Kudos to everyone out here. Next slide, please. So you're right. So user access reviews are core ITGC controls under access control domain. They ensure only authorized users can access critical systems. So I would say please keep in mind RBAC, role-based access control. Bang on. Awesome. Next question, please. All right, so we do have another question. So, what does SOC stand for in the context of compliance report? Is it security of compliance, standards of certification, secure operational channels, system and organization controls? A, B, C, D. Please start typing in your questions, answers. What's the SOC stand for in the context of compliance reports? Awesome, awesome. Piyush, Tarashika, awesome, Girish, Ritu, B, someone says B, okay. C, D, okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Loved it, guys. Loved it. I think majority of them, excluding few, are bang on. It is system and organization controls. Really loved the energy and kind of the response I'm getting. I think most of the people do understand the summary, and majority might be an expert also, right? So really kudos to it. Appreciate it. Next slide, please. So basically, as we discussed, system and organization controls, SOC stands for system and organization controls, which reports provided by independent auditors or a CPA firm to evaluate an organization internal control environment, right? So that's the summary about it. Next slide, please. Which control domain would involve documenting how system failures are resolved? Is it incident management? Is it access control? Is it change management? Is it backup and recovery? Which control domain, how system failures are resolved? Okay, okay. Get it from response. Cool. Awesome. Piyush, Sudha, Shinu, Manoj. Awesome. Please do understand, I do understand there might be a couple of stakeholders who might have confused, but please do understand documenting how system failures are resolved. If a system, what is system failure? Please do understand what is system failure. If a system failure is there, how do you resolve it, right? So please think from that approach perspective. Awesome. Okay, okay. I think incident management, fair. With B. Okay. Mm, okay. Okay. But yeah, but I appreciate majority of them. I would say at least 90% of them out here, I think banged on with the right answer, which is incident management. So please do understand, incident management is like how organization would identify, report, or resolve and disruption or a failure. Here, that it talks about system failure. When a system fails, there's an incident triggered. And when an incident is triggered, how do you resolve a incident is talked in incident management of the domain under ITGC, right? Badge of failure, fair, yeah. So makes sense. I think, yeah. Anything which kind of comes into the incident criteria of the organization, that's the way to go. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. Incident management covers how organization identify, report, and resolve unexpected disruptions such as system outage or breaches, right? So please correct your answers. If you're wrong, it is more focused on incident management. Next question, please. All right. So what are a SOC reports important for? Why are SOC report important for service providers? You do have two entities. One is service provider, one is customer or user entity, right? Why these reports are important? To avoid paying tax, to showcase their physical office setup, to demonstrate security and control maturity to clients, to monitor employee salaries. Fair, Piyush, Fair, Praveen, Raj, Sanu, Savita, Ramya. Awesome, awesome. Bang on. Yeah, next slide, please. So, congratulations. I think most of them got this right. It is to demonstrate security and control maturity to the clients, to your customers. SOC reports build trust by by proving to clients and stakeholders that proper security and operational controls are in place and regularly assessed and tested. Right. So, kudos to everyone out here for the right answers. Next slide, please. Awesome. So it was really fantastic out here for the session. Love this audience intensity, kind of interaction, kind of banging on the right answers. Really appreciate. Hopefully, you did understand the concepts really well from a high level perspective, but kind of you can join MOS for more full training on these concepts. I will kind of hand over to Kushi and team, but really appreciate for all the audience just spending some time with me on Saturday evening, morning, your time, right? So, but really appreciate, guys. Thank you. Over to you, Kushi.
Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you for taking out the session, and thanks to our wonderful audience. And once again, apologies for joining the session, for starting the session a bit late. But thanks for being patient and joining us throughout this session. And thanks for making this a great success. And thanks to you, Amit, for delivering such an insightful and practical session, and your expertise in this field, your knowledge in this field of audit, control, and compliance really make this really impactful, and your real world perspective was also very valuable to us. So in case of any doubts or queries, like the people can still put it on the chat box, we will take it up later. And if you are willing to understand, if you are willing to master SOC and ITGC in detail, so we'll be dropping the form link in the comment section, which you can fill it out and our team will reach out to you. And feel free to connect with us on our LinkedIn channels. We will always be there to assist you. So thank you, Amit. Thank you once again, everyone, for your time, trust, and energy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.